Obligatory adverbial is an adverbial that is necessary in the sentence in order to produce a complete and meaningful sentence. For example, then the king got in his bed. The adverbial into his big bed is essential for the sentence to have proper meaning. Obligatory adverbials contrast with optional adverbials. Optional adverbials is an adverbial that can be added or removed from a sentence without making the sentence unacceptable. The sentence, if she were with him, would be happy and good for the rest of his life. The prepositional phrase for the rest of his life functions as an optional adverbial and may be removed without making the sentence incomprehensible. Optional adverbials contrast with obligatory adverbials. Peripheral sentence element. These are elements that are optional to the sentence and are most frequently found in a peripheral position. For example, in the sentence, there was an enormous orange cat on the front step. The verb on the front step is the most peripheral sentence element, located in the periphery of the sentence itself, and function as an optional extra to the core meaning of the sentence. Adverbs are in fact the most peripheral sentence elements, in contrast to verbs, which are the most essential central elements. Peripheral sentence elements have greater flexibility of position than central elements. In example, the verb can be placed in initial sentence position, as in, on the front side there was an enormous orange cat. The distinction between peripheral and central is over, not clear cut, but rather on a cline. Phrase is a linguistic element, is a hierarchical label between a word and a clause. Example phrases are into just 1 month queen of partying to a party. See also clause and sentence. Prague School is the name of a group of linguists belonging to the linguistic circle of Prague, founded in 1926, and other linguists who have developed their work. Prepositional phrase. A prepositional phrase is a phrase that is made up of a preposition followed by its object or complement. For example, he's in the backyard with a jam sandwich and a pile of towels. Predicate is the part of a sentence or clause which contains a verb and will say something about the subject. Simple sentences are traditionally divided into 2 major parts, a subject and a predicate. Predicate therefore refers to any part of the sentence other than the subject. For example, in the sentence, she did her washing in a great big boiler. The subject is she, and erases the sentence from the predicate. Prosody. The term prosody refers to the pattern of stress intonation in a language. Rhyme. With reference to the information structure, rhyme is the part of the sentence contain new, unknown, unpredictable information, and is usually found in the second part of the sentence. In contrast with stem, sentence is usually considered by linguists to be at the highest hierarchical level of syntax, the other being clause, phrase, word, morpheme. A sentence has a subject, predicate, and when written, begins with a capital letter and ends with a full stop. Sentences can be categorized into simple, compound, and complex. See also clause and phrase. Simple sentence consists of a single independent clause. For example, the king had been out to a party. It was midnight. Sans verbs make up a small but important class of verbs which express situation demand. Sans verbs are to live, to stand, to sit, to lie. That is both in a progressive form to describe a permanent state. For example, the verb sat. The king's palace sat high up on the cliff. And when the progressive form to express a temporary state, for example, the verb phrase was sitting, Mrs. Joe was sitting on an upturned laundry basket. Stylistic regards the study of Horace's use particular expressions and forms which identify their style of writing. Subject is one of the 5 functional sentence elements, the other elements being verb, object, complement, and verb. In a market declarative sentence, the subject normally precedes the verb which agree in numbers person with the subject. In English, the subject is typically present in a sentence and is most frequently a noun phrase. For example, in a phrase, a great temps in the sentence, that night the great temps blew across the sea. However, a subject can also have the form of a clause. The first thing the wind did is a clause in form of subject in function in the sentence. The first thing the wind did was not blow to blow the picket caps off the palace guards. These subjects typically the market theme and information bearing structure. Subjunct is one for subclasses of verbs, the others being adjunct, conjunct, and disjunct. This category was introduced by Kirk in 1985. Kirk says that the type of verb has a subordinate role in comparison to other clause elements. A subject is either outside the sentence structure, expressing a viewpoint, for example, the adverb economically, and the sentence, economically, the washerwoman was not well off. Or as an expression of contrast in rather formulaic phrases, the adverb kindly is usually kindly offer the king a seat.